The year 2020 is now over, and inside these buckets are all the trimmings for my garden, the entire summer and fall. Every leaf, every branch, every flower, all the roots, everything. I saved them up, put them in these buckets, and let them sit there because I am going to turn them into compost. Compost to bring me into the new year of 2021. Plants need food just like you and I do. They get their energy from the sun, but they need to get their nutrition, and they get that from the soil. Their food is in the dirt, and they soak up that nutrition through their roots. The vitamins and minerals that are in the dirt, they get absorbed through the roots and into the plant to help it grow. You must be wondering, where does that nutrition come from? Where do the vitamins and minerals come from to help the plants grow? Well, they came from other plants. Other plants that had grown in that same place. They grew roots, they grew leaves, they grew branches, and they died. And after they die, they decompose. They break down, they get rotten, just like this stuff you see right here. These are all the remains of the plants that I had in my garden this year. I put everything in those buckets and stomped them down so I could fit as much as I could, and it has been rotting away. It got wet from the rainstorms and water sat in those buckets, and now it is decomposing. Take a look at those tomatoes. Remember the cherry tomatoes? Well, there's some of the remains of them right there, and they are decomposing and turning into compost. I am going to use all of this decomposing plant material from 2020 to grow my garden of 2021. Just like this delicious potato right there. Isn't that yummy? Well, not for you and I. It wouldn't taste good at all. It would make you sick, but that is perfect food for a plant. Remember sunflower number 1, sunflower number 2, and sunflower number 3? There they are right there, the remains of the stalks all chopped up. They're the zinnia flowers. Doesn't matter what kind of plant it is. If it's a plant, it will decompose and turn into food for other plants. And that's why we call it compost, just like this delicious bucket right there. That's already been rotting for a while. All of that juice is already decomposing right there. You can see the rattlesnake vine leaves. There's some sweet potato roots. All the plants that were left over got stuffed in these buckets. Here's some new weeds that I picked. I went around the yard and just picked up the new weeds that had grown. Doesn't matter whether it was food that I was growing or weeds that were growing in the yard. It all turns into compost. It all is great plant food. This was the cherry tomato plant. This was an epic producer, hundreds of cherry tomatoes, and it's all done now, but it's gonna be great plant food for the new plants of 2021. Just like all of this delicious stuff in this bucket. Take a look at that. That was another bucket that was sitting in the rain. Water got into the bottom and it started rotting. The scientific word for rotting is decomposition. And decomposition means to break something down into little small parts. A new plant can't absorb that whole tomato or a whole leaf. It needs little pieces. And so bacteria breaks down those parts into small little particles, the minerals, the nutrients that the plants are going to use. Even out of this rotten sweet potato, that will become plant food. Some of this plant material has been decomposing for a while already, this stuff that's wet and yucky and brown. And then other plant material is still fresh and green because I cut it more recently. And now that it's all together, I'm going to stir it up, mix some of the old stuff with the new stuff, because it is now ready to turn into compost. Food for the plants for the new year of 2021. Now the compost is buried, underground. I'm gonna let the bacteria do their thing, decompose it even more, and dig it up in 2021 and see if it's good enough to feed my garden in the new year.